The next point is of animals doing anything other than procreating, finding food, and building a house. So the unstable creature decides to slip in another sarcastic remark about animals sleeping, which is so obvious I should not even have to point that out. So when he finally gets to the next point of pure instinct versus human logic, he calls it simplistic and backed by no sources. My explanation of it, that is. Let me clarify that it may be over the top to say they're run on pure instinct. However, animals rely on their instinct for their lives. We don't have to, because we have advanced logic, reasoning, and morals. An example a wiki source stated was baby ducks following a pig as if it was their mother and wanting to have sex with pigs when they grew up. Which, if this example were true, it only credits my genetic video on learned sexuality. However, instincts can be displayed in the following quote. Speculated examples of instinctual fixed action patterns can be observed in the behavior of animals which perform various activities, sometimes complex, that are believed not to be based on prior experience, such as reproduction and feeding among insects. Sea turtles hatched on a beach automatically move towards the ocean, and honeybees communicate by dance, the direction of a food source, all without formal instruction. This is like a human already knowing how to talk as a newborn, which is just not the case. So next, he claims I fell into a trap of my own somehow by quoting, "We don't know the minds of animals," and apparently stating their minds are empty when I never said their minds were empty. I'm just giving several examples from several studies by which he obviously can't comprehend and passes it off as a contradiction, same as the Bible arguments, which I always refute because they use this same piss-poor approach. Next point he makes is asserting the basis behind my argument is religious for the claims that I made, which God has blessed us with. When the basis of my argument is a homosexual animal won't go and mate with another animal of the opposite sex. In his point, he fails by asserting I use the Bible to justify my point, whilst I've used everything but the Bible in my case thus far. Wisdom and understanding are things certainly my cats didn't possess, doing things that were bad for them and repeating anyway. You're right, only to an extent, in that everyone doesn't possess these qualities, in that people possess different levels of wisdom and understanding. For example, you possess a lack of understanding in the definition of bigot, which requires intolerance, which we don't possess. We don't have to agree with someone's lifestyle and tolerate it at the same time. Look up the two definitions and learn they're different. We can tolerate it but not agree with it or accept it or embrace it with open arms. So, that being said, since you lacked knowledge on that, next is a wisecrack about having voices in your head. You know, kind of like when something tells you not to do this or that, or you have a funny feeling about something. Yeah, something like that. That would be counsel. Unlike the animal kingdom, we possess a combination of all of these things because I guarantee every knee shall bow and every tongue will confess. But Christians got the point when I brought this up. That was the whole point for me stating that, was for the Christians. You know, even though you didn't get it because you won't understand why I brought these up as a unit till you meet your creator. So we'll just leave that alone and continue. Moving on to artificial insemination and adoption, he brings up this piss-poor example, which is not even artificial insemination, also by his own admission. Therefore, it is a failed attempt to bring my argument down. Also on adoption, I never said animals don't adopt. I asked, when do they adopt? Not nearly as much as we do. A tiny fraction, actually. It's another misquote he generates for his plethora of misquotes. Next point is of the lizards I was discussing about in my video, which reproduce through parthenogenesis because the male population has nearly been extinct. Thus, they cannot reproduce sexually. They can still do it with a male, but mainly do it with females because there's hardly any male gender. Remember when I said an animal's desire to reproduce is never overruled? Well, this is a classic example of what I meant. These lizards do not stick with these females for a lifetime. They complete these actions strictly for reproduction because there's no other way. It's a survival tactic. He attempts to mask this as denialism when if he had half a brain, this was already addressed in the first video. Hell, everything was addressed in that video. In this next argument, I am sorry, Christian Truth Hammer and Epidemic 2020. I have to call this guy a complete idiot. He severely twists my points in that a female with low estrogen can be tomboyish whilst he leaves out, but not lesbian. And a male can have low testosterone levels and be a little feminine, but leaves out, but not homosexual. Now that that has been addressed, he goes on to say these low levels may lead to homosexuality, but if you watched my video, I already showed that theory, the hormonal theory, was debunked because it doesn't explain lesbianism. It deals with the attacking of the Y chromosome. Therefore, you fail on that note. His next point was, what would cause a female to mount another female to get sexual gratification when her instincts are to be mounted? This again falls under we don't know the minds of animals. For example, I once had 2 female cats. Both went in and out of heat in different times. When one went in heat, the other would often come to it and try to lick it, and what appears to me try to make it feel comfortable or better, because it seems that this whole cycle is extremely uncomfortable or painful to these cats. The other one even mounted the one in heat once, in which I believe she was attempting to help the one in heat. But guess what? The male cat I had mated with both of these cats. Therefore, how can they be homosexual? They are heterosexual with confusion of instinct, like I previously stated. So you've just made an assertion by claiming she should go under instead of mounting. We don't know their minds. Next is another misquote where he claims I say humans observed it, therefore it's wrong. When I never said that, I said we don't know. I never said humans observed it, therefore it's wrong. I said we don't know. So next he failed at referencing biologically unnatural via the definition of nature provided by dictionary.com, might I bring back up. But moving on, next another misquote where he says, I say homosexuality is a genetic mutation like missing a limb or being a hermaphrodite, when I said if, not it is a genetic error. I said if it is a genetic error. And then he continues to use a red herring argument that our skin is a genetic mutation. Skin color serves a purpose, ladies and gentlemen, and continues through reproduction. Somebody please explain to this uneducated being that homosexuals don't produce homosexuals. Hermaphrodites don't produce hermaphrodites. Hell, even when it comes to midgets, they have a chance at producing another one, but it not always does that. The error doesn't always, a lot of times the error will go back to its original state. Therefore, this guy shows this clear lack of understanding on genetics and mutations while trying to say I lack that understanding. This is highly laughable. In conclusion, since being a hermaphrodite is a genetic error and never transfers into the next offspring, if homosexuality was genetic, it would be a genetic error because it doesn't transfer. Also, if it were genetic, why then are they only 1 to 2% of our population, and why hasn't it killed itself off yet? The rest of his worthless video is full of pseudoscience on the theory of evolution which can't be proven and is losing ground daily. Also, there's false assertions of hate when I don't promote or present hate, only disagreement, the classic unstable atheist approach, and I don't mean all atheists. False accusations of sinful pride, false accusations of lack of knowledge in a field I dominated and switched from. There you have it, YouTube. This imbecile's argument is built on top of screwing with facts and twisting quotes. I will not be addressing this idiot anymore because his tacky work of referencing my quotes. I don't have time for childish games and ignorance like that.